WHCR 90.3 FM, New York.
Gone insane. Everywhere you turn, there's suffering and pain. Children are dying. We've got to take a stand against inhumanity to woman, child, and man. War and destruction continue to escalate. A worldwide epidemic of ignorance and hate has infected people of all faiths and colors, poison them against their sisters and brothers, yes. That is not the way that it's supposed to be. No, no. We were meant to live in peace and harmony. There are so many old moons and skies keeping us apart. It's time for healing.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen of the listening audience. I'm Maurice Selby.
And this is Sean Shivers.
Say that one more time.
Sean Shivers.
Now.
Sean Shivers.
All right, and you're listening to Health in Harlem on WHCR 90.3 FM New York, the voice of Harlem.
The voice of Harlem.
And ladies and gentlemen, we have with us once again Dr. Damian Kurian, the chief of cardiology at Harlem Hospital.
The one in charge, the only one.
That is right. And he is here to let us know how we can reduce our risk of developing heart disease or stroke. And this is a really important show because this is one of the leading killers of, well, heart disease, one of the leading killers of Americans in this country. And we talk about stroke, we're talking about the leading cause of disability.
Is this our first time combining both?
Pretty much, yeah.
I think the first, yeah.
So in general, it's just vascular disease. Is that correct?
Sure. Yeah, thank you so much. I'm very excited to be here.
Thank you very much for joining us again.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, you said it well that, vascular disease kind of is the combination of strokes, heart attacks, and even disease elsewhere in your body. So I think the way we could talk about everything is just reducing your risk of having any type of trouble dealing with your arteries altogether.
Got it. So when we say vascular, that's what you're talking about, the arteries.
Yeah, vascular means veins and arteries, but generally when people say patient has vascular disease, they're talking about arteries, and arteries to the heart leading to heart attack, arteries to the brain leading to strokes. You can have problems with arteries leading to your legs, leading to claudication, which is pain, or even ulcers, or even amputations. You can have problems anywhere. Arteries leading to your intestines, you can have problems. So we're just trying to prevent any type of problems with the arteries. We'll talk about that.
So can we start off very basic for I'm about to say studio audience. Wish I had one. For the community.
Yeah,
so what's the difference between a heart attack and a stroke?
All right, so both of them are caused by basically a sudden blockage of blood flow to an organ. So if that artery is feeding your heart and suddenly blood flow is blocked to your heart, we call that a heart attack. And conversely, if it's an artery that's going to your brain and suddenly the blood flow is stopped there, either from a blood clot that forms there, or what we call an embolus, which is a clot that travels through the artery and suddenly blocks flow, or a bleed occurs and the flow isn't good in that area, that's called a stroke.
So basically the blood, which is the nutrients, is not getting to major organs.
Correct.
So then your body's going crazy now.
Yeah, so some people use the term brain attack, heart attack. So brain attack's a stroke, and they can be catastrophic, they can be fatal. So we have to do all we can to stop them.
Wow. Now, we talked about this topic numerous times on various different shows, and as Sean said, this is probably the first time that we're combining these because it's essentially a disease of the blood vessels, as you said, Dr. Kurian. Now, the thing is, when we talked about these topics before, we talked about some of the risk factors, and we mentioned age being one of them, and people mostly of the middle age and then later in the elderly are some of the people that are more at risk.
Sure.
But in recent years, And this is even from what I've experienced in my clinical rotations at Downstate. We've been seeing younger and younger people coming in with some of these vascular problems, these problems with their blood vessels, and having these serious complications.
Absolutely. It's very scary. It's sobering to see people, I've taken care of people now younger than me, and I'm 42, who had heart attacks, who had strokes, and usually they have some risk factors that can be identified and controlled for. So things like smoking, and I'm going to bring this up probably several times in our hour, but
sounds like a plan.
Smoking cigarettes to me is the most easily preventable risk factor for vascular disease, which people can do, is just avoiding cigarettes at all costs. So yeah, we see younger and younger people, I think because some of their risk factor combinations are increasing. Obesity is increasing generally patient-wide. So along with obesity comes diabetes, comes high blood pressure, hypertension. So those risk factors all contribute to the development of vascular disease.
Now, I don't have my information in front of me, but I was recently looking at Harlem Hospital's Community Needs Assessment. They came out in 2013, and they were talking about statistics in 2012, and I don't know if you can answer this or not, but it was saying that Harlem is still the highest out of all 5 boroughs. The area of Harlem still has the highest of cardiovascular disease, diabetes, obesity. Is that true? And if so, can you why is that still?
It's multiple reasons. It's hard to pinpoint, one thing that we could change. We're looking at disparities in healthcare and why there are a lot of more risks in certain populations. There's both genetic and environmental factors. Just access to healthcare itself, where some of these risk factors could be controlled and prevented, is one cause. Then there are environmental causes, dietary causes, risk factors. It's hard to measure exactly that. Mortality from heart attack and stroke is definitely higher in the at-risk populations in Harlem. So, we're trying to do whatever we can to fight these things.
Well, I want to put it out there real quick. I'm going for my PhD right now, and as far as my dissertation, I decided that I'm going to look at other dissertations, but it's going to be focused on why. We're giving all this information.
It's a beautiful question.
You have a small area in the 5 boroughs of New York, and why is this area the worst? So I'm dedicated. That's going to be my dissertation. I want to find out why. I want to do some more research and find out why are certain chronic diseases, and as far as number 1, cardiovascular disease, highest in this area.
That is insane. So, and alarming. Let's say that's a better word for it. Now, the object of tonight's show, as we said, is to let our listening audience know how they can reduce their risk of developing heart disease and developing complications like stroke.
I think it's easy too.
So we talked about some of the risk factors, Dr. Kirian, but let's break this down into modifiable risk factors, the things that we can do something about, versus things that, as you said, I know you mentioned genetics, it plays a role, and there's nothing we can do, unfortunately, about genetics. But there are certain things we can do, ladies and gentlemen. We can reduce our risk. So what are some modifiable risk factors, and what are some of the modifiable things?
So as you well said, Maurice, the non-modifiable, like your family history, you can't change your family. You can hide from your family, but you can't change your family. Your genetics are there, and whatever your risks are from your family and from your genes will be there. Also, your sex, being a male, you can change that, but it's not going to change your risk factor.
True story.
For cardiovascular disease. So male sex is actually an increased risk factor for vascular disease. So those are the 2 main non-modifiable, what your genes are, what your sex are. But we should focus really on the ones that you can change. And Sean, you said some of them we think we'd have a good handle and know how to do it. Smoking, I mentioned again, just avoid cigarettes at all costs. There's no question about their connection to vascular disease. Nobody reasonable, argues that point anymore. Some of the other things, diet, Sean, you know more about this than I do, with cholesterol. Cholesterol builds up into plaques in your arteries. Cholesterol comes from saturated fat, basically, in your diet. Saturated fat comes from meat, animal products, even dairy products. People don't think about that.
Lard,
butter, cheese.
I'm just throwing it all out there.
Sure. So cholesterol, smoking, diabetes. Diabetes is a medical condition. You're diagnosed by your healthcare provider, but believe it or not, it's very often preventable and or modifiable because it is really closely connected to being overweight, obesity. So if people have diabetes, if they work with their healthcare provider, it can even be cured, diabetes, or at worst modified, definitely. So diabetes is another thing. High blood pressure is super common.
Hypertension.
Yes, hypertension. It's around everywhere. It's very prevalent in Harlem, in particular, in the community. That one also, that risk factor, hypertension, is closely connected to obesity, but it's also prevalent in people who are not obese, but it's definitely modifiable with diet and medication. So something, again, you can work with your healthcare provider, get that risk down as low as possible.
Now I got a question real quick. As far as the hypertension, can you clarify this? Is it a major thing is the reduction of salt in your diet?
Some people are what we call salt sensitive. So when they reduce the salt in the diet, their blood pressure drops significantly. Other people are actually not salt sensitive. No matter what they do with the salt, the blood pressure kind of stays the same. But we think salt has kind of bad problems for your blood vessels anyway. So generally, cardiologists recommend people who have high blood pressure, everybody should just cut their salt intake. Salt's in everything. Salt's in every food. Just about. It's a little exaggeration, but so we recommend for people who are really trying to reduce the salt in their diet, they have to read labels, read what sodium is, which is salt. Take less than 2,000 milligrams, 2 grams of sodium a day. Most people eat about 3 to 4 grams of sodium a day. So.
And probably unknowingly, right?
Exactly. You really have to read labels, and you'll be surprised by some of the things you read about that are high in sodium. So dietary things. Other modifiable risk factors we think is an independent risk factor, obesity itself, being overweight, and a sedentary lifestyle, which means not moving around too much, not exercising. It's hard to prove those things independently because they're closely tied with all the other risk factors, but generally not moving around much, what we call a sedentary lifestyle, is now widely considered to be an independent risk factor for development of vascular disease.
Now, Mo, don't we say every single week, like we have doctors come on, experts come on, and they're talking about prevention. They always talk about change diet, exercise, drink water, stop smoking. It's all the same regimen.
Hearing the same message.
It's all the same regimen.
Well, you know what? Remember, I'm trying to remember how the saying goes, but repetition. Well, this is the key to marketing, ladies and gentlemen. Repetition. Those Super Bowl commercials you saw over and over again, and the ads that you see popping up when you're browsing on the web over and over again. These things are reinforced. So we're hoping to do the same thing to you in reinforcing some of these messages for so that you can live a healthy lifestyle.
I'm going to get a t-shirt that says all of those. I'm going to get a t-shirt that says eat fruits and vegetables, exercise.
That's actually what's up. Wear it every day to work. Oh my gosh, you got me eating apples. All right. Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, you're listening to Health in Harlem on WHCR 90.3 FM New York, the voice of Harlem. We will be right back after this break, but remember, you can call us at 212-650-6903 if you have any questions, comments, or concerns about tonight's show. That's 212-650-6903. We're going to be back to give you some tips on how we can put some of these things into practice so we can deal with those modifiable risk factors. You're listening to Health in Harlem. We'll be right back. Stay with us.
WHCR 90.3 FM, New York.
If you know the symptoms and get the facts, you'll know the signs of a heart attack. Women, listen to me, and when I'm done, if it sounds familiar, call 911.
Pain in your neck, chest,
arms or jaw,
shortness of breath,
please tell us more. Cold sweats and nausea, tiredness,
it's time to take it
serious. Back pain, stomach pain, shortness of breath, cold sweats, nausea, dizziness. If you know the symptoms and heed the signs, you'll be around for a long, long time. Women, listen to me, and when I'm done, if any stuff familiar, call 911.
Learn a song that could save your life. Get a free download at womenshealth.gov/heartattack.
Women, listen to me, and when I'm done, if any stuff familiar, call 911. If any stuff familiar, call 911.
A message from the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services.
911.
All in together now. We can make it better now. Come on, can we do it?
Yeah, you know that we can.
We'll rope it up,
Cause we know how to jump.
we'll roll it out,
We know how to skate.
we'll cut it down,
We know what to eat.
we'll swap it out.
We eat healthy stuff.
Just moving a little and eating better every day can help make you and your kids healthier. Search We Can online to find doable tips and activities that you can use every day. That's We Can. A message from the Ad Council, HHS, and NIH's We Can program.
Can you tell if this burger contains bacteria that could cause kidney failure? Listen. You can't see it either. Use a food thermometer to be sure you've cooked meat and poultry to a bacteria-killing temperature. Raw or undercooked meat may contain bacteria that can make you very sick, or worse. Roughly 3,000 Americans will die from food poisoning this year, but you can keep your family safer. Check your steps at foodsafety.gov. Brought to you by the USDA, HHS, and the Ad Council.
WHCR 90.3 FM, New York.
Deep down inside. Healing. We got to have healing. Swallow your pride. We got to have healing. Healing. Open up your heart. Come on, healing. We need a healing. Open up your heart. Open up your heart.
Welcome back to Health in Harlem, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Maurice Selby.
And this is Sean Shivers.
And you're listening to Health in Harlem on WHCR 90.3 FM New York, the voice of Harlem. And tonight we have with us Dr. Damian Kurian. He is the chief of cardiology at Harlem Hospital Center. And we're talking about how you can reduce your risk of suffering a heart attack or a stroke. In general, how we can keep our blood vessels nice and healthy so that we don't have to deal with these things down the line. And when we started the show, we talked about a lot of the major risk factors, both modifiable, some of the things that we can do, such as quit smoking, we can change our diet, we can exercise more, keep our blood pressures low. These are things that we have control of, ladies and gentlemen. And then some of the non-modifiable risk factors are, for instance, your family history. If this runs in your family, then you're at increased risk. And if anything, you need to really focus on those modifiable risk factors in that case. And even males are more prone to developing heart disease. So that's just something we got to deal with, fellas. But as we said, there are a number of things that we can do to reduce our risk, and that's what we're talking about tonight. Now, Dr. Kurian, I feel like a lot of information is out there. Some of the stuff that we mentioned in the first part of the show, we talked about the as Sean said, actually, we talk about that every week. Exercise and nutrition being the key to preventing a whole host of disease other than heart attacks and strokes. And I feel like a lot of people know this information is out there and available to pretty much everyone, but for some reason people don't heed the advice that is given, or just have difficulty in various ways following these instructions or getting or doing these things. So what are some of the reasons for that?
I think if you take each risk factor at a time, sure. Each risk factor at a time, Maurice, I'd say cigarette smoking, I would have to say most people know who I talk to who smoke that it's not good for them, and they understand that. But I think the nicotine and the cigarettes and the habit of the smoking is so addictive, and I think that it's just so physically addictive that people have trouble stopping the habit. So in that case, I don't know how much more education would do. I definitely, in certain people, I definitely think some people say, well, if I'm going to get lung cancer, that's God telling me. But, again, it's more than, we're not talking about cancer necessarily, but vascular disease. You can have a major stroke and be bedbound the rest of your life. So maybe to some degree, some education about that. But I think, we're working on new ways to help people with that type of addiction, the nicotine addiction. I remember last year I mentioned, and we talked about very briefly, the electronic cigarettes. And I have to say, I don't think they're FDA approved. And just anecdotally, I've seen a lot of good success with these electronic cigarettes. And I know there's some debate and some discussion in different communities whether they should be allowed, people should be allowed to even use these. But I've anecdotally heard back from a lot of patients who tell me they work. So to me, if they work, anything beats a cigarette. And yeah, they're getting a nicotine with it, but they're not getting the toxic smoke thing. So to answer your question first about the cigarettes, I think it's that people know it's bad, but it's just very addictive and difficult to do.
I want to chime in, and this is not just necessarily talking about smoking or drinking or exercising, or eating healthy, eating right, drinking waters, saying I'm going to get more hours of sleep. I guess when you have to, if your life is set a certain way, and then all of a sudden you want to make a change, I think it's very difficult for an individual to make that change, unless they have a support. So you can wake up one day and you can say, okay, I'm going to eat healthy, but then your body is like, well, no, I want a piece of cake. Or you're going to say, I'm going to run let's say 5 blocks a day. I'm going to get up early in the morning. Your body is like, no, we're not getting up. So I guess when you make a major change like that, you're going to have to do it in increments, but then and then outside of that, the psychological piece, as far as you were saying that a person is going to say, well, I'm going to smoke anyhow unless I get lung cancer. Individuals make, I guess, a dramatic change in their life when they know that they're about to drop dead.
Oh, I think you're absolutely right. Any major change, and as you get older, it's harder to make changes, of course. Young people, we can change some of the habits. But another thing is, and my old chief, Dr. John Capola, used to tell me this, is if you get a partner to help you do something, whatever you're going to do, be it your spouse or just a friend, and say, who does the same thing, and say, you know what, let's do this together and support each other. I think that could help. With the dietary thing, guys, I just think there's a lot of misinformation out there. And again, Sean, you know more about this than I do, but personally, I'm a vegetarian. I know the data about it, and if you look at the data about plant-based diets, low-fat diets, Dean Ornish is a cardiologist who's published a lot of material on this. It shows you can actually reverse some heart disease, these plaques and arteries. There's a lot of diets out there for different reasons, maybe to sell books or to be a catchy phrase or for fame. And so I think a lot of patients catch on to that, and they think of that as being what the truth is. So in that case, with dietary things, I think one of the main problems is there's so much conflicting information out there that patients get confused about what is my healthcare provider, what is my doctor really recommending for me.
Well, I'll throw it out real quick, and this is just to wrap it up real quick. From my experience, in food and nutrition, stay away from the processed and stick with the fresh fruits and vegetables, the bright colors. Stick with meats. My thing is that if you're gonna eat meat, whether it's beef or chicken or lamb, we're conditioned in this society to eat 8 ounces, 16 ounces. But if you want to try to stick to the correct portion, which is about 4 ounces. So if you stick to the correct portions of food, if you increase your protein as far as your meats, and I'm saying your fresh fruits and vegetables, and stay away from the processed food, and drink lots of water, I mean, that right there is a start.
Sure, low calories, I think is what we're saying. Portion control, definitely with beverages.
And I'm trying to break it down real simple.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think there's there was a lot of debate in the last couple of years with Mayor Bloomberg in banning some of these high-calorie sodas and such. But I think it's just generally a good idea. Water, as you said, Sean. Tea. I love tea. Just drinking tea without any sugar is a nice low-calorie drink, too. I want to give a quick acknowledgement to a PA who works at Harlem Hospital. His name's Craig Braithwaite. He works in the ER.
That's our boy,
Greg. What he did last summer, I was very impressed. This guy has got tons of initiative. Yeah. He grew a big garden on the roof of one of the buildings. Oh, yeah?
Yeah, that's right.
I was so impressed, and he took me on a little tour of his garden, and he grew real crops, and he brought everything to the cardiology clinic, and patients were able to sample some of the stuff. So, so he was just firsthand demonstrating some of the knowledge about, as you said, some of the leafy greens and different colored fruits and vegetables.
And I want to throw out real quick, and I'm not going to throw no names out there, but there's a gentleman that I work with at the hospital, and he put together a diet plan, and his diet plan was just eating the correct portions of food that he cooked himself fresh, and he did this. He did this for about a good 3 months. He lost about 50 pounds.
Wow.
He went and every day we were like, "You're losing mad weight. You're losing." And then I said, "What's your regimen?" And it was just basic, cutting sugar out of his diet, and he was eating the correct portions and eating the correct food groups and lose weight.
And I just, what I want to caution people from doing is falling into these fad diets, as they say, to lose a certain amount of weight really fast for a wedding or whatever. Remember, we talk about lifestyle changes on this show, so we're not talking about doing this for maybe 4 months and then going back to what you normally did before that, but we're talking about a sustained change. And nobody's saying that you can't have Burger King at a certain point. That could be a treat for you. You could do it every few months. You watching the game, you should be having some pizza with that game. That's how I feel. Some wings or something. You should enjoy it. Fat. But I'm saying I'll go in when it's time.
I hear you.
I'm having a good time. Then I'm gonna have some ribs and a beer and watch the game. But this is something that can't happen every day. It's not sustainable. That's not healthy.
Correct.
And another thing I think we need to really take into account is that Dr. Kirian mentioned that genetics play a major factor in heart disease, and we have people that they do what they're told, what they're prescribed by their physicians and even dietitians, but still have issues. And I can see how they could be particularly frustrating to have high cholesterol, even though you've cut out a good portion of things that could raise your cholesterol. So we need to be mindful of that as well. If you have certain risk factors, you might have to be more extreme in some of the measures or some of the things that we do in terms of diet and exercise.
So it's not a textbook cut out diet for everybody, as you alluded to, Sean. I mean, if you cut your calories down, you're going to lose weight. It doesn't matter what you eat. If your calories are less, you're going to lose weight. So we have to be careful, though, because there are some things you can cut your calories. So if you eat just low calorie but fatty foods, you may lose weight, but long term that may not be good for your arteries. So it has to be a diet that sort of is tailored to you and what your risk factors are for vascular disease type thing.
Got it. Ladies and gentlemen, you're listening to Health in Harlem on WHCR 90.3 FM New York. We will be right back after this break. Remember, you can call us at 212-650-6903. That's 212-650-6903. And you can also hit us up on Facebook. You can type in Health in Harlem in the search box. Sean and I will pop right up, and you can leave your question, comment, or concern right there, and we will do our best, our absolute best, to address that question. All right? We'll be right back. Stay with us.
WHCR 90.3 FM, New York.
It's Thursday night, and you're grabbing drinks with some friends. Started off with a pitcher for the table, which quickly becomes two. There's pool. Oh! And there's the photo booth.
All right, everybody squeeze in. Say cheese!
Followed naturally by an order of wings. And another.
Can we get some extra ranch sauce?
Then there's the ceremonial nightcap.
So what are we doing this weekend?
And lastly, it's back to the car, which, if you're buzzed,
Order in the corner.
could be the most expensive night of your life. Getting pulled over for buzz driving could cost you around $10,000 in fines, legal fees, and increased insurance rates. Nothing kills a buzz like getting pulled over for buzz driving, because buzz driving is drunk driving. Brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Ad Council.
Hi, I'm Vinny B of the Vinny B Showcase. Tune in every Thursday from 8 to 12 midnight for some solid cultural roots music and some sweet lovers rock. Also, informative interviews and giveaways. Right here on the Vinny B Showcase every Thursday, 8 to 12 midnight on WHCR 90.3 FM. Peace.
WHCR 90.3 FM, New York.
Everywhere you turn, there's suffering and pain. Children are dying. We've got to take a stand.
Welcome back to Health in Harlem, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Maurice Selby.
And this is Sean Shivers.
And yes, in our theme song, it just said, children are dying. Well, I don't know all the way back that far, but we got young adults dying of heart disease out there, getting strokes, and that's what we're trying to prevent tonight. We have Dr. Damian Curian on the air with us from Harlem Hospital. He is the chief of cardiology, and Sean is dying laughing right now.
Because that came out of nowhere.
No, but it's true, man.
You're right. Yeah.
We've had some young people. I was on rotation at Long Island College Hospital, doing neurology on a neurology service, and we had a number of people. I'm talking about under 40, at least 2 or 3 people, and a couple other people under 50 that came in with strokes, full-blown strokes. Obviously from different causes, but mainly, these are vascular or problems with the blood vessels, which causes the heart attacks that we've been talking about and causes these strokes.
You make because this is going to chime into something that we were talking about over the break, and it's the word stress. Now, I've read that stress in young people. Well, not saying I'm 44. I'm young. You know what I'm saying? So
you're old to me.
but you're right. There's individuals who are like in their teens who are having strokes and heart attacks, or in their 20s, and I read that a lot of it has to do with stress. So
I want to mention a couple things about stress. First of all, stress is hard to measure. Like, how much stress are you having? What are you going through? What does that mean to you?
Bad stress.
Yeah, a couple studies that really showed that stress was contributing to cardiovascular disease. One is they had looked at the number of heart attacks in New York City in the 6 months right before 9/11 and the 6 months right after 9/11, 2001, and the heart attacks right afterwards. The rate had gone significantly up. So that was thought to be, just a general stress of the city type thing. Another study was published, I think, in 2007, had to do not as sobering a type thing, but with the World Cup soccer tournament in Germany. And Germany in 2006, they hosted it, I know, and they didn't win. They lost, I think, in the semifinals, something. But the day prior to their game, to the day after the game, there were like many, many more heart attacks the day after the game. So that was just thought to be, people, big fans, having a lot of stress with something happened to them. And so there's no doubt about it, I think.
So instead of giving the clinical term, can you give a term that everyone can understand as far as what is the definition of stress? What is stress?
Well, there's physical and psychological stress. So physical stress is something that's probably good for you. We think is exercise in moderation and for the right people. But psychological stress leads to physical problems. We know that. We can even see people coming in who are stressed or anxious, people having anxiety attacks. And Maurice, maybe you see in the emergency room, people come in and they really have fast heart rates, and they may have high blood pressures. So it's real. It's stuff we can measure, and they're having psychological stress. And if you give them something to cut their stress down, even a medication to cut their stress down, their heart rate goes down and they recover. So
now, has that anything to do with your adrenaline?
No, absolutely. So either one of those will sort of increase your adrenaline, but the physical stress, the exercise stress is more a good thing. It does good things to your heart. But the psychological stress, you also get adrenaline release. And we don't really know the answers to why that's a bad thing for you. Why does that thing lead to bad problems with your blood vessels and your heart? So some sort of trigger there that's causing something negative.
So basically you're saying that when someone is stressed out, this stress is destroying organs, destroying blood vessels, and
it's harming them. It's leading to heart attacks and strokes. Dean Ornish, who I mentioned before, his programs, including the vegetarian diet, had a lot to do also with reducing stress, yoga, meditation, and he really, to this day, feels that's a very strong component in terms of reducing your risk of having this vascular disease. So
you know what? Actually, in a way, we could say, oh no. We did actually, and the caller said that the information that we're talking about tonight is actually very great, very informative, and she just wanted to give us a shout out for that.
Thank you.
Right, thank you very much.
So thank you very much.
I could mention, if you don't mind, Marie, stress tests, because a lot of patients come to me and say, what is a stress test? But a stress test is something, it sounds horrible to a lot of people, but it's basically walking on a treadmill, and we're just kind of objectively watching what happens to that person when they do it, and we measure their heart rate and their blood pressure, and it's a pretty easy test to do. So.
Got it. What's up?
I'm going to say so when it comes to stress, exercise, because I'm not going to say right now eating right, but I'm just thinking when you're stressed out, you should be doing something that will.
Well, I was going to say that there are a lot of things that we talked about where you're killing two birds with one stone, knocking down that stress level, and at the same time reducing your risk of heart disease. Some of the things that we mentioned, such as the cooking, making your own meals at home, that's an activity that your brain loves.
Yes.
We don't just like to eat, get a fast food. You take all of the fun
out of food yourself.
When
whatever that will relax you.
Yeah, whatever activity is, as long as it's not harming yourself. If it reduces stress, that's a great activity. So just going for a walk. People think exercise, always telling me to go to the gym and kill the treadmill. No, it's just going for a nice brisk walk, get the heart rate up. Do it for 20, 30 minutes is a great way to reduce stress, reduce your risk of vascular.
I don't know. Sometimes when I have a stressful day at work and I go home and I cut off all the lights and it's dark and I just turn on the jazz and I just lay back. That's just so soothing.
And clears your mind.
Good for you.
That's what's up too, man. But one of the things for sure, these endorphins that people talk about, the chemicals that are released in your brain after exercise or some sort of strenuous activity, these things are real. And you come out of that with your mood being elevated, and you might still have the issues that you're dealing with in your life, but you actually took some time out. Not only do you get the cardiovascular benefits, but you get this benefit psychologically.
Absolutely.
Where you feel better, your self-esteem is improved because you actually accomplished something.
The circulation in your body's moving, you're flexible.
Like I said, it's hard to measure that thing directly, but I think most people have no doubt what you're saying is absolutely true, Maurice. So,
and before we cut to break, I think sometimes to say that with certain practices or certain lifestyles, you can reduce your risk of heart attack and stroke. And we got the cynics out there that are like, well, you know what? If I have a stroke or I have a heart attack and I die, well, guess what? That's cool. Like, it's my time to go. Then I don't have a problem with that. Okay, you know what? You're entitled to that opinion. But let me tell you, first off, heart attacks are painful and scary because you know exactly what is going down when it's that time. And strokes, as we said at the beginning of the show, leading cause of disability. So if you survive, you probably won't be the same. If this was caught later or it's a really massive stroke, you won't be the same in a lot of ways. And let's talk about some of the other things besides heart attacks and strokes. There are other complications or other effects of heart disease that could drastically affect your lifestyle.
Well, Mo, since you open up that door, should we go into detail? We're not going into details, but what happens to your body after you have a heart attack or after you have a stroke?
Or even leading up to that, what are some of the things that could happen that could affect the quality of life?
Yeah, first of all, Mo, I think what you said is absolutely true. A lot of patients come and say, well, if it's my time, my time. But as you said, most people will survive the heart attack or stroke. So then what does that mean for their quality of life? For a stroke, to me, that's one of the worst sentences around. I mean, you could be bedbound and unable to move around and dependent on other people to feed you and change you, so things as drastic as that. Heart attack's a little bit different now. If it's a major, large heart attack, you might be really limited in terms of what you could do, and you may have symptoms even with minimal activity, but your mind's usually intact after that. Smaller strokes, even back to strokes, talking about can affect your mind, change how you speak or how you talk. So, it's really, really serious stuff that can happen there. And I think most people don't really think of that or know about that when they think about a stroke or a heart attack. They think, well, it's the big one, it's my heart attack time, I'm going to go. But no, if they're disabled after that and they're unable to do the things they're used to doing, then that's really affects your quality of life.
So is it safe to say if you have a heart attack, you have to now move very slow? You have to watch how you move?
No, I think, no, Sean, I disagree. I think with very big ones, yes. But otherwise, we've kind of changed gears a little bit with heart attacks now because being active is good for you. So once you survived your heart attack, we still try to push people to do whatever they could. We try to keep their activity level up, and we encourage them. Yeah, we encourage them to be as active as possible. Now, new. The old days, maybe in the 60s, if somebody had a large heart attack, they'd be bed rest prescribed for 6 weeks, 8 weeks, like that. Now we don't do that. We get people out of the hospital in about 2 days after a heart attack, usually. So it's really changed a lot.
Wow. And just going back to some of the, other complications of vascular disease of the blood vessels. We had a psychiatrist. I'm trying to remember who this was as a guest on our show.
I remember though.
And we were talking about dementia. And one of the things this person said was, out of all of the things, when I ask people what do they fear most, it's not death. It's not all of these other things that you would imagine as somebody's biggest fear, but people fear most, the thing that people feared most was losing their mind.
Yeah.
And ladies and gentlemen, I will tell you that because of vascular disease, you can, quote unquote, lose your mind. As Dr. Kirian said, there are these things called vascular dementia, in which you have a bunch of mini strokes, and over time, all of these mini strokes lead you to not think the same way. So we're talking about everything from memory loss, not being able to remember.
Change of personality you're talking about?
Change of personality, not being able to remember your relatives' names, not being able to take care of certain activities around the house on a daily basis.
And not being able to remember the name of a psychiatrist who was on the show.
Yeah, exactly.
Could be
there we go. Oh my goodness, man. You're scaring me.
Good.
I'm starting to sweat.
Memory loss is very common, but no, absolutely. Anything, that changes who you are, your personality, or the things you're used to thinking about and doing, it's pretty scary. So that should be thought of as, an absolute possibility to happen with a stroke.
So, ladies and gentlemen, sorry to bum y'all out with that, but we're talking about facts here, okay? Facts of life, and how we can deal with these things. But if you have any questions, comments, or concerns, you can call us at 212-650-6903. That's 212-650-6903.
Real quick, I just thought of something. Moving forward, Mo, when we give out all this information, we want you to do your own research. Yes. I want you to go and do your own research. I want you to Google whatever, and I want you to look up everything that we talk about, I want you to do your own research and look it up yourself.
Improve it. Just show it to you. We're not lying.
Start saying that.
It's out there.
I agree with you 100%, Sean, and I think a lot of patients come in and they've done that already. They come in, they say, I looked up this, or a lot of people, as you know, use the web to find a lot of information. So Googling things, they come in with a lot of questions. So yes, I definitely agree with that.
True story. You're listening to Health in Harlem. We'll be right back after this break. Ladies and gentlemen, stay with us.
WHCR 90.3 FM, New York.
Divas Beauty Salon has moved. Divas Beauty Salon, a team of professional Dominican hairstylists with more than 10 years of experience in Harlem, has moved to the Bronx. Recently renovated for your convenience and better service, the salon offers a full range of services, including wash and sets, wash and blow dry, relaxers with deep conditioning, touch-ups, semi and permanent color, haircuts, and more. Divas Beauty Salon, located at 670 East 161st Street between Cotwell and Trinity Avenues in the Bronx. Open 7 days a week for your convenience, Monday through Saturday 9 a.m. to 7 p.m. and Sundays 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. For more information, call 718-292-0055. That's 718-292-0055. Remember, at Divas Beauty Salon, we value your time. We're not here to waste it.
WHCR 90.3 FM, New York.
Welcome back to Health in Harlem, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Maurice Selby.
And this is Sean Shivers.
And tonight we have with us Dr. Damian Kurian. He is the Chief of Cardiology at Harlem Hospital Center, and we're talking about reducing your risk of developing a stroke or heart disease down the line. And we talked about a lot of different things up to this point, but we're going to hit you hard and fast this last 12 minutes so that you know exactly what you need to do to reduce your risk of developing these
catch
diseases.
It and share it.
Right? Catch it, share it, get your notebook out right now and start jotting down some notes. Now, let's talk about one of the things that we didn't mention as far as, reducing our risk. And thank God we got the Affordable Care Act here, so a lot of people are getting, or a lot more people are getting access to health care. And here in New York City, we have the Health and Hospitals Corporation. We got the sliding fee scale things, so people have access to primary care physicians, or you can have access. So talk about the importance of people going for regular healthcare checkups.
Sure. So you said it well. I think it's access to care, and I think that's one of the problems in our community up here in Harlem, is that people either don't have or don't seek access to care. Harlem Hospital Center, first of all, we see all patients whether they have insurance or not. Definitely the Affordable Care Act is going to expand the insurance coverage for just about everybody. But we at Harlem, we see everybody. We do community outreach and see patients in the cardiology clinic. Just to throw a number at you, you can call 212-939-4700 anytime during the day, and my staff will help you get hooked up with Harlem Hospital to come see cardiology and the medicine clinic. So that's one of the problems we've been talking about. Most of these risk factors for vascular disease are preventable, modifiable. So the first step is getting in to see a healthcare provider where we can work together to really help you with whatever risk factors you may have. So
now I guess on that note, let's just say that someone all of a sudden is if they believe that they're having a heart attack, or if they believe that they're having a stroke, what should they do?
If they really believe they're having a heart attack or stroke, they got to get to an emergency department right away. So they call 911. You can, they can talk to their doctor or healthcare provider about what those signs and symptoms are. I mean, they're very variable with different people. Chest pressure, difficulty breathing, sweatiness, feeling faint, feeling nauseous, particularly brought on by exertion, by physical activity. would be suggestive of a circulation problem. The stroke issues are even more variable about what a stroke may be. And Maurice, you know this, but they could be trouble speaking or sudden problems with your vision and all. But I think the safest thing is just activate EMS 911, get to the emergency room. Worst thing that happens is you waste a couple hours and come in there, get an EKG and a checkup, and nothing's wrong. But the time is of critical importance when we're talking about treating these things. So
I guess it comes on also too is that if you're not sure, it's always safe to go get yourself checked.
Absolutely. We see most people we see who come in with chest pain don't end up having anything wrong with their heart actually, but we think it was a good idea that they came in and they learned some more from being there, and it gives us a focused time to educate them about what are some of the symptoms to look out for when they're at home. So
wow. So don't be afraid, ladies and gentlemen, of getting that done. And I think people have a good idea about themselves and their bodies, where we know when something is not right. And as Sean and Dr. Kirian just said, if you have that question, that thought, like, this is not my gas, my normal, reflux that I have, gastric reflux, this is different. As soon as you start to question or try to differentiate, you need to go and get checked out.
Yeah, now Sean, you mentioned if you think you're having a heart attack or stroke, so that's serious, acute stuff. I say get into an emergency setting. But if you're not sure and you're not clear about your symptoms, as you were talking about, Mo, why not go talk with your healthcare providers?
Talk to your PCP.
Talk to your PCP. There's a lot of types of evaluations, including tests, including stress testing, as we can do. They're a lot easier than people think, and it gives us some objective information that everything's okay, or do we have to go a little bit further?
I said we have a caller, but real quick, I just want to throw I did my little Googling, and a couple of myths. We're going to clear up some myths and some misconceptions about stroke and heart attack. Now, I have one myth on here that says that if you exercise, you should take a supplement in order to decrease your risk of a heart attack or a stroke. Myth or fact?
I think it's a myth. I don't know what supplement they're talking about that you must take. I guess it depends how much exercise you do. We really think it's just enough exercise. Well, a couple of things I want to mention. Aerobic exercise, definitely good for your heart, 20 to 30 minutes a day. There's a lot of research now about whether you really have to do continuous exercise, get your heart rate up, or can you do kind of stepwise things, interval training to get your heart rate up. But I would say it's a myth to blanket statement say, oh, you need some sort of supplement.
I want to throw two more out real quick.
Okay.
It says that
just real quick, we have a call on the line. Caller, are you there?
Yeah.
And can you tell us your name and where you're from? First name.
Roger.
Okay.
I want the question: if a person has problems with is this true, or is it a myth that they have to take an aspirin a day?
You know what? I was just about to say that.
And second of all, if they go through a stress test, either intravenous wise or either on that machine, after that's completed, should they change their whole diet where small veins don't get fucked up with cholesterol or whatever?
Well, I want to.
You mentioned about the diet, changing your diet, eating all the fatty and greasy foods, fast foods.
Great question.
Great question.
And it has to be individualized, Roger. First of all, the aspirin thing, if you have a lot of risk factors for vascular disease, you should take an aspirin. Discuss it always with your PCP first, but even a small dose aspirin works well in preventing heart attacks and strokes, 81 milligrams. Males over age 50 who have high blood pressure, anyone with established vascular disease, so survivors of heart attacks or stroke, should take an aspirin, absolutely. But discuss with your healthcare providers. There's a tiny, tiny risk of bleeding with the small dose aspirin, so that needs to be addressed with your doctor.
And that was something I was going to say earlier, because they did a study at the University of North Carolina that says that if you take a baby aspirin once a day, that's good as far as prevention of heart attack and stroke.
But if you're young, healthy, and you don't have any risk factors, I think it's not going to hurt you, but it's not going to help you either, so why would we recommend it?
And you had Roger, you had another question, you said?
Your other question about the stress test, Roger?
Yeah, I said the stress test, if one takes a stress that's intravenous-wise or either on the machine, and once that's completed, should they change their diet?
Well, I would say you have to discuss the results of your stress test with whoever ordered it. If the stress test is abnormal, then yes, we should. That if it's abnormal, then we're suspecting that you might have vascular disease. So then we would be very regimented in terms of the diet we'd recommend for you. But it's very individualized. You have to discuss that with your healthcare provider. But an abnormal stress test is suggestive that you might have vascular disease and should be discussed with whoever ordered it.
If you have it, doctor, or don't have it, is it good to lose weight?
Good to lose weight.
You said lose weight?
Is that what I think? If you said lose weight, absolutely.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a good idea to maintain an ideal body weight, and the extra weight is really not doing any good and can only do harm.
And also to chime in on that, as far as when you lose that weight, it helps your body circulate the blood much better. So that's why it's always good to lose weight.
Absolutely.
Well, your show is great, and does it come on this time? Because I just happened to turn to it, and boy, y'all, yes, it's something. It's got one little. Is that you be talking so much potent information to the public? I mean, to the community, but you don't mention the telephone number.
We do, but we do it during commercial break.
Every 2 minutes, and it's 2126. Wow.
Okay, I'll do it.
We're gonna slow it down next time. Thank you for that feedback.
The conversations what you're talking about is so educational. When I want to call in, if the phone number is.
All right, guys.
Thank you for that feedback.
I will do it as slow as possible.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate it.
Roger, thank you very much for calling in, brother.
It's a great show.
Thank you. I feel good. On that note, Mo, what's the number? Say the number, Mo.
So the number to the studio, ladies and gentlemen, is 212-650-6903. That's 212-650-6903. Now, I just want to caution you all, though, because we got Vinny B of the Vinny B Showcase in the house, and the Vinny B Showcase will follow this program at 8 p.m., but Health in Harlem airs every week Thursday, 7 p.m. to 8 p.m.
Tune in.
So you can tune in, and whatever questions you have, even if you think of them throughout the week, we're more than open to you calling in and asking questions from last week's show as well. So that's not a problem. We're always here to try to answer your questions as best we can. Now, Dr. Kirian, before we wrap up, we got like a less than a minute, actually. What would you say is the most important message? I know, I love Benny V, man. He's the man.
Because I got one more myth.
All right. Okay. So let's do the myth, and then we'll say the last, most important message for the night.
Throwing this out real quick. It says drink a glass of wine or drink a bottle of beer once a day.
Wow, I'm glad you came up with that one. That is true. That's true.
True that.
Yes. My girlfriend's probably cheering at home like, yes, wine.
You have to talk.
I like beer.
You have to talk to make sure patient doesn't have a problem with alcohol.
Correct.
But one drink a day, and it could be wine or beer or a mixed drink, is actually good for your blood vessels, and it keeps your arteries clean. But again, it has to be recommended with caution. You can't recommend that to everybody. Some people have had problems with that.
True story.
In general, yes, one drink a day is good for you.
And I would just say, one drink. We talk about the size of that drink, though, because some people think they can get their big gulp cup from. They think they can get their big gulp cup
somewhere. They say so.
They think they can get their large, big gulp cup and pour the stuff in there and think, this is one drink.
Yeah. Well, I'll put it like this, because it's not on here. I'm going to assume a normal beverage is 8 ounces, so I'm just going to say 6 to 8 ounces.
Wine is 5 ounces, and beer is 12 ounce, and a mixed drink 1 ounce of a hard liquor in a mixed drink are kind of equivalent to what we call wine.
You better know about that hard liquor.
Somebody told me. But.
All right, real quick for the FCC.
WHCR 90.3 FM, New York.
It is the top of the hour, ladies and gentlemen. The Vinny B Showcase will follow. But real quick, Dr. Kirian, what would you say is the most important message that our listening audience must take away from tonight's show?
Wow, I think avoid cigarettes at all costs, including being around people who smoke, and visit your healthcare provider at least once a year so they can make sure you don't have some hidden risk factors for vascular disease, because we're trying to prevent strokes and heart attacks as best we can.
That's what's up.
Excellent.
Thank you very much, Dr. Kirian, for joining us once again. Vinny B has a question now.
He's giving us some of his time.
Okay, Maurice, good luck to you, by the way, in your residency search. You're going to be a fantastic physician.
Thank you.
No doubt
You're going to be my
about it.
PCP.
Thanks.
I work with a lot of med students. You're going to be absolutely fantastic.
Thank
Whatever
you, Dr.
go.
Kirian.
Yeah.
Yes. I was watching the news program today, and they're talking about women having strokes. And they mentioned something about oral contraception. What's the relationship there towards women having strokes?
So oral contraceptives mixed with smoking cigarettes causes blood clots. So they can get blood clots anywhere. Usually they're on the venous side, so they get blood clots in their legs, but they can even have strokes with that. So the usually those people who use oral contraceptives who get strokes are people who smoke cigarettes at the same time, and that combination can be deadly. So that's probably what they were talking about.
Yeah, that sounds like a whole show. Oral contraceptives.
Well, it ties back to cigarettes,
True story.
Cigarettes.
So we came full circle, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you once again, Dr. Kirian.
Very welcome.
Thank you very much, Sean Shipper.
Thank you, my boy Mo. But everybody, please make sure you tune in next week. We're going to have another great show. It's going to be on eating disorders. Is it is it a medical condition or a psychiatric illness? So please tune in.
Very important show. We want to thank Vinny B from the Vinny B Showcase. He gave us an extra couple of minutes to get this important information out there.
Appreciate it, my
Thank you very much. And he asked a good question, too. That's a heck of a question, man.
The news, but it didn't say what,
Yeah, I hear you. And we also want to thank Miss Valerie Wright. She is the producer of Health in Harlem. She gets us wonderful guests like Dr. Kirian each and every week. Thank you very much, Valerie. And we also want to thank our callers for calling in and asking very good questions. And we look forward to you calling in again and tuning into next week's show. This show is dedicated to the memory of Miss Gloria Thomas Harlem. Take care of yourself.
Oh, wisdom, you got to have it, Oh, wisdom, rise up and smile. Don't be shy. With love in your heart, you got to be conscious, you got to be righteous. Can't you see the sign of the time we're living in? Got to use it every day. It's what we need today. We got to use it every day. It's what we need today. Wisdom and knowledge. God is good. Don't you be the devil too. No, you can't guide a people without your vision. You shall surely go astray. Every day, it's what we need today. We got to use it every day. It's what we need today. The Bible can teach you wisdom, whether you wife or you done.
older can teach you wisdom. Whether you're old or you're young, oh wisdom, oh wisdom, oh wisdom. Only a fool trusting his own eye and disregard correction. You got to be humble, free from anger, and your days shall be low. You gotta use every day. It's what we need today. You gotta use it, yeah. Every day. It's what we need today. Oh, wisdom. All right now. Oh, wisdom. Hey.